Hello again. Well, without really planning on it, I seem to have got quite a collection going of NAD amplifiers and receivers. And if you add up, the preamps, the pair amps, the receivers, I've got about 10 now. I didn't really plan on this. I just, quite like the sound and I quite like how they look. But the one I haven't got is a NAD 3020 amplifier or any of its variants. And the reason is because I think if I'm buying, something that's 40 years old or so, and I have bought stuff on eBay of vintage amplifiers and things which haven't worked, I don't want to be paying a lot of money for it. And I certainly don't want to plan to pay over £50 for something that, that may well not work. And this came to a head recently because what I've been doing is I've been tracking how much amplifiers go for on eBay to see if I could do a video on what are sort of the cheaper ones. That's going to come out when I've got a few more and done the maths. And I was again struck by how much these cost. And I've got an example here which came up on eBay a couple of weeks ago, which you might be interested in. Okay, so there was a non-working NAD 3020 that scratched that went for £115 plus £15 post and packing. So basically someone paid £130 for a non-working scratched amplifier that may be an expensive paperweight. There was a time actually where I saw a NAD 3020 that was for parts or not working, and what they said was it all lights up, we can hear on the headphones, we don't know why it's not working, and if you look at the pictures, the pre and pair amp links weren't in. So as it was a charity shop, I wrote to them and suggested they try this, and they would do it from sale, and I'm hoping they got a bit more money than they would have. So that was one of the original NAD 3020s, and even the later ones, the I version, the E version, you can't get one of the amplifiers for under £50. And I've done a couple of videos on ways around this. So for example, you could buy the NAD 3130, which is the one next up in the range, which I got for under £50, and sounds great as far as I can see. An alternative is you could buy something like this. And this is the 7020E receiver, which is basically a NAD 3020E amplifier plus a tuner. And that again went for well under £50. And I thought, well, there we go, that's the way of doing it. But I've come up with an even cheaper way. And recently, for £15.20 delivered, I bought this. And this is a Proton 520B. And you may wonder, well, hang on, that's not an NAD 3020, but let's have a closer look. Right, so if we compare the 7020E with the Proton, you can see that the power switch is the same as the green power switch. The Proton, being an audiophile version, doesn't have tone controls, though I do notice that the balance control and mono and tape buttons look very similar. It's got a 4-position selector for phono, it's got quite a good phono stage, tuner, video and DAD, which I seem to remember is a digital audio disc, which is kind of a earlier way of saying CD, but maybe wrong about that. If you look around the back, you can see the similarities continue. They've both got the same sort of printing, they've both got the same earth terminal. If you go along to the other side, you can see that the being an audiophile version, this has got slightly better speaker outputs than it's got sort of proper screw terminals as opposed to these sort of spring terminals. Having said that, these do not take banana plugs, which I was a bit surprised about. Another difference is that the NAD has got the soft clipping control, and the Proton doesn't have it, but what it does have this, which is the anti-clipping circuit. Then they're looking at the specs, they both seem to do the same thing. And the other thing is that the Proton says it's 20 watts per channel, but then says it can produce, high power output into, 2 ohms and things, and that's a very conservative estimate, which has helped with the anti-clipping circuit. So again, very similar. So there we are. As you can see, it's very similar, and I've looked online to see why this might be, and there seem to be several versions of the link between NAD and Proton. One of the commonest ones seems to be that NAD were using Proton in the factory in Taiwan as a kind of an OEM manufacturer for stuff, and that Proton thought, hang on, we're shifting a lot of these, let's make our own version. Now, looking online, the 5020B, it's said by people who I assume know what they're looking at. They look at the circuit diagrams, and it's most similar to the NAD 3020E. I have no idea whether that's true or not, but that's what a couple of people have said. The other thing that people have said is that early in NAD's history, they didn't have always the best reputation for reliability and quality control. And what Proton did was they put in better quality components and sold it for a bit more money. And certainly looking at it, I remember the early NAD 302s went for sort of 90 to £100, and this retailed in the early 80s for 120. So that may be true. So sound wise, the thing that struck me was how much like an NAD it sounded like. So I listened to it initially through my Q Acoustics 3020 speakers, and I think that probably was quite a bad match because of this has got a rich sort of chocolatey NAD sound, which didn't really go better with them. I think it was better matched to my Acoustic Energy speakers. But as I say, it had that rich chocolatey sort of sound you get with the NAD 3020. One interesting thing I did notice about it, which seemed weird, is that when I plugged the headphones in to try and listen to the headphone output, it didn't stop the speaker output, which seemed a bit weird. Perhaps that was something they overlooked when they decided to clone it or whatever. So there you go. What you got is, if there's the old adage, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So this looks like an NAD 3020. It seems to be made of a lot of the same stuff. It sounds like it. It's made by the same people in the same factory. It's an NAD 3020, presumably. And, this is, I say, it's cost me £15.20p delivered. So, what's that about? 10 to 15% of what the broken, scratched NAD 3020 went for. And this, I have to say, is in great condition. And, the pots weren't scratchy when I was turning the volume control and balance control. It's great. So my new way of getting a cheap NAD 3020 is to look for the Protons. I hope that's been of interest to you. I say that coming up, I'm going to be doing one on my results and what the cheapest amplifier brand on eBay is. Thanks for watching.